So students, let's take up the last NCERT book, that is Fundamentals of Human Geography. Human geography is very important from mains point of view, and when it comes to prelims, some factual data is important. But let us see what exactly is there with respect to human geography when it comes to some introductory chapters, and later let us learn how exactly different population exists in different parts of the world, and can we implement any of this in India is what we need to look at, right? So let's quickly look into what are these chapters. And as I am telling you, human and economic geography factual information from these NCERT books are not so important, but as we are looking at the world human geography aspect to some extent, some examples in your answers will make more sense, right? So let's quickly begin with what we see to be fundamentals of human geography. So guys, the first chapter is almost about what exactly is human geography and why we should read it. For optional students, this book is very important, especially the chapter, but for others, only in essay or so you can use it. So to begin with, they try to analyze that why exactly we need to read human geography, and then they talk about the spatial phenomena, how it varies from individual to individual, and how exactly should you read it. That is, should you read it from the regional point of view or should you read it from the systematic point of view? All these factors needs to be considered when we are looking at this. Then what is more important for us is about the nature of human geography. That is, we need to look at the relationship between human beings and also relationship between man and his own environment. There are two important things that we need to understand when it comes to this, that is naturalization of humans and humanization of nature. The meaning of naturalization of humans is, you talk about Eskimos. Based on their climatic conditions, their body will be adopted and they themselves adopt to the changing circumstances. That is naturalization of humans. But when it comes to humanization of nature, for example, it's very hot in Delhi. So what I do, I establish or I construct a building and I keep ACs and all and ensure that I am living in a cool environment. So this is what I say, humanization of nature. The nature will be changed in such a way that it would benefit the humans is what we are going to see with humanization of nature. I hope it is clear. There is nothing much to see. We have some terminologies called as environmental determinism. The meaning of this is interaction between primitive human society and strong forces of nature is termed as environmental determinism. The meaning of this is environment will determine how exactly we need to live. So whatever you do, nature at the end of the day will try to balance everything, is the philosophy behind environmental determinism. But when it comes to possibilism, we say that there are enough possibilities that can happen and the man can choose which possibility he wants to happen in the society. That is, if I do a particular act, there can be multiple results. So it all depends upon me, how exactly I choose. So they say that environment doesn't give much choice and whatever environmentals we need to follow is environmental determinism. Possibilism says that there are multiple choices available to the human beings and it is up to the human beings to decide which one he has to choose, right? So these are some of the things which we need to understand with respect to the naturalization of humans and humanization of nature. At max, they may ask you some 100 words with respect to this. I want you to look at these two boxes. Benda lives in the wilds of Abuj Mad area of the central India. His village consists of 3 huts deep in the wilds. Not even birds or stray dogs that usually crowd villages can be seen in these areas. Nothing is there. Wearing a small lion cloth and armed with his axe, he slowly surveys the Penda forest where his tribe practices a primitive form of agriculture called as shifting cultivation. Benda and his friends burn small patches of forest to clear them for cultivation. The ash is used for making soil fertile, and he is happy that the mahua trees around him are in bloom. How lucky I am to be part of this beautiful universe. He thinks as he looks up to see the mahua, palash and sal trees that have sheltered him since childhood. Crossing the Penda in a gliding motion, Benda makes his way to a stream. As he bends down to scoop up a palm of water, he remembers to thank Loy Lugi, that is the river which usually flows. Moving on with his friends, Benda chews on succulent leaves and roots. The boys have been trying to collect gajara and kuchula. These are special plants that Benda and his people use. He hopes the spirits of the forest will be kind and lead him to these herbs. He closes his eyes and tries hard to recall what the elders had taught him about these herbs and places they are found in. He wishes he had listened more carefully. Suddenly there is a rustling of leaves. Benda and his friends know it is the outsiders who have come searching for them in the wilds. In a single fluid motion, Benda and his friends disappear behind the thick canopy of the forest. So what exactly do they mean to say? Here they are trying to say that everything in the nature is left as it is, and they are trying to adjust themselves with the nature. But when you talk about the humanization of nature, winter is heavy and it's very cold. At that point of time, her office has comfortable 23 degrees Celsius. So here we are trying to change the environment in such a way that it will benefit us. The temperature is controlled and there is adequate lighting, and they try to keep vegetables, all this according to their own convenience, and it is not the nature which decide what it has to grow, but it is the human beings. Here we are talking about the possibilism. And then you have neo-determinism or stop and go determinism. The difference between neo-determinism or stop and go determinism is that here when we talk about environmental determinism, environment is supreme. Possibilism, human beings are supreme. Neo-determinism or stop and go determinism is a median approach. They say that environment is important, but environment also provides enough choices. So human beings has to take his choices and he has to go according to his wish. But at some point of time he has to analyze what is the impact that he is creating on the human beings or on the nature as well, and on the basis of that he has to do further actions. This is what we say stop and go determinism, right? So this is what we see with respect to Griffith, Taylor and others, who actually talks about the middle path or Madhyam Marg. And then the book talks about how exactly in different phases geography was studied, not required for non-optional students, and then they try to read about human geography and sister disciplines which you have to cover when you were actually reading geography in depth, right? So no need to worry much about this chapter. Let's quickly look into what are important for our exam. The next most important chapter is about the world population distribution. Right here you have to see how exactly the distribution has taken place in developing, least developed and developed countries as well. So let us see each one specifically. Today on earth we have 6 billion population, and when we are actually talking about the pattern of distribution in the world, we need to see that the 10 most populous countries of the world contribute about 60% of the world's population. Of these 10, 6 are located in Asia alone. Can we see which are they? The highest is China, followed by India, and then you have United States of America. Indonesia is also in Asia, Brazil, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Japan. So can you see? USA, Nigeria, Russia, Brazil are the one which are not there, and these actually form 60% of the world population. There is no population census of the world which is recently available, so you can rely on this. First is China, second is India, and the third most important country is United States of America. Fourth, Indonesia, and then you have Brazil, and then you have Pakistan. At least try to remember 5 to 6 countries which are very, very important. Right? We are talking about the populous countries, and you can imagine that Bangladesh has more population than any other area. Then the other important thing that we need to see is density of population. When we talk about density of population, we need to know the total population by area, that is per 100 square kilometer, right? How much population is there? Sometimes different countries adopt different measures. Density is actually given by population per square kilometer, right? So, you try to take the total area of India and you try to take the total population of India, and whatever you get while dividing this is your density, right? So, once if the population density is more than 200, we call it the densest population, most densely populated, more than 200 persons per square kilometers, and in some parts it will be very less. For example, let us take northeastern part of United States of America. The reason for this is you actually look at Great Lakes of United States, Great Lakes of North America, which is also in between US and Canada. Here you have lot of industries, and as these are rich in industries, more population is present in this region. The next important part is northwestern part of Europe. We are talking about UK, France, Germany, right? Spain, Portugal, which were once industrialized, and even now they have their own significance. South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, we saw because of Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra delta, you see one of the best population density present in this region. ASEAN, we also saw Indonesia having one of the largest population. And then you have East Asia. East Asia means Japan, South Korea, China, even they are also the highest densities. Please remember this. We are talking about North America, South America, nothing much. Brazil in some areas you have, but when we talk about North America, we are talking about the industrial parts. When we are talking about Europe, we are talking about the northwestern part of Europe, and then we need to talk about South, Southeast and East Asia. Other areas which are closer to North Pole and South Pole like Canada, Russia and all usually have low density of population. These are sparsely populated regions of the world with less than 1 person per square kilometer as well. This is very, very important for us to look at this. See guys, we were actually talking about the densest to be here. Can you see UK, France, Germany, South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia. We are talking about the Nile river and its delta. It's very, very important for us to look at this. But can you see here, less than 1 Amazon basin, Sahara desert, Russia, Canada, Australia desert region. So, this is what we need to understand. What factors usually influence the distribution of people? This can be asked. First important thing, before I get into this, I want you people to understand UPSC may give you consider the following places and say where exactly you have high population densities. Right? First important thing you need to know is geographical factors. Availability of water. Historically, availability of water as primitive form of agriculture was in practice. This was very, very important for us. Availability of water will try to tell us how exactly people have to move ahead, right? So, when we talk about the availability of water, Nile, Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra, all this matters a lot. And industries have also come up wherever water is available. Second important thing we need to understand is landforms. When we talk about landforms, if it is mountainous or hilly region, usually the number of people who will be staying will be less. If it is plains, you will see more densely populated regions, right? This is also very important for us. And then we need to look at the climate. Climate plays a very important role because extreme climates will be usually avoided. Areas with a comfortable climate where there is not much seasonal variation attract more people. But when you have extreme like hot or cold deserts, and even when you have harsh climatic conditions, usually people will be less. Mediterranean regions were inhabited from early periods in history mainly due to the pleasant climatic condition. That is, we are talking about the European condition. Soils, fertile soil will attract more number of people, now fertile soil will not attract more number of people. And economic factors, if minerals are there like South Africa and all, even where deserts are there, you can see population around this mainly because of minerals present there. Urbanization, cities if they develop, and job opportunities, industrialization if it takes place, that also leads to lot of population. And then we talk about the industrialization, again they talk about the industrial belts, provide job opportunities and attract large number of people. Cities offer better employment. Can you see, urbanization is also about employment opportunities, industrialization is also about employment opportunities. So this makes people to move more closely to this. Social and cultural factors, wherever you have temples or masjids, usually you see lot of people will be present around this because this becomes tourism spots. Then we need to look at some of the basic factors, that is population growth. When I talk about population growth, I need to understand that growth of population can usually take place from one point of time to another point of time. But whenever I consider from one point to another point, that is, let me take from 1991 to 2001. So when I say this, I am talking about the 10-year period, correct? So when I am talking about 10-year period, a timeline is important, and here the population growth can take place mainly because of births or deaths, in migration and out migration. People if they come in, then it will be more, people if they go out, then it will be less. So here I need to consider two important points and see whether it has increased or not. Growth rate of population, that is percentage, I should say. See, in 2001, what is the population minus population in 1991 divided by population in 1991. This will give me growth rate of population. Natural growth rate usually means we are consider only births and deaths. Actual growth rate of population means we are also trying to include migration as well. Today you cannot consider only natural growth, we have to consider the actual growth of population as well. Positive growth of population means it is increasing. Negative growth of population means it is decreasing. What all can increase? See, if it has to increase, birth rates has to more and death rates has to be less. In migration has to be more, out migration has to be less. Opposite, if it takes place, it will reduce, that is, births should be less, deaths should be more. In migration should be less, out migration should be more. Then we say negative growth of population. Components of population change. Whenever we try to see, we try to talk about the crude birth rate. That means how much number of live births in a year per 1000 of population is actually taking place. This is very important. We are talking about 1000 of population. And then we need to talk about the crude death rate, where we say how much death is taking place for 1000 of the population is what we try to understand again. Migration, we talk about the place of origin and place of destination, and here they move because of push factors and pull factors. So both these factors are also important for you. Some can be permanent, that is forever they may move. Temporary, for job opportunities they may move, and some are seasonal. Rural areas, people usually move to urban areas for some job opportunities whenever they don't have any work in their rural areas. Whenever it is there, they go back to their hometown. right? This is what we need to see. I have spoken about the push back factors and the pull factors, right? This is very, very important. And then we need to talk about the trends in population growth, how it has changed over centuries. So here you can see initially with the development and spread of agriculture, there is a little bit rise, right? And European settlements, industrialization, can you see it led to this? And with technological advancement, especially when the death rate starts reducing, we usually observe that the population growth has increased tremendously. So here they just try to say in the first century AD it was below 300 million. The expanding world trade during the 16th and 17th century set the stage for rapid population growth, and the industrial revolution again increased. World population exploded because of industrial revolution, and technological advancement helped in the reduction of birth rate in few places, and it also helped to increase the age of the population as well. But over a period of time, we have seen that the doubling has taken place very quickly. Initially, it took more than million years for population to come to 1 billion, but today it has taken only 12 years to rise from 5 billion to 6 billion. This is when the world started realizing that the population is really exploding and measures need to be taken, and pressure came on India, China and other countries to reduce the population as much as possible, right? So, spatial pattern of population change we need to understand. When a small annual rate is applied to very large population, it will lead to a large population change. We need to look at the spatial pattern of population change. Don't go by percentages. The reason for this is, let me take in some country there are only 100 people, and if you add 10 people to it, it is 10%, correct? Let me take in India, you have 1 lakh, and if you add 100 to it, it is less than 1%. So, can you understand that percentages doesn't determine, actual change is important. When a small annual rate is applied to very large population, it shows that it is very less, but ultimately when you look at the numbers, it will be large. And then even if the growth rate continues to decline, the total population grows each year. The infant mortality rate may have increased, as has the death rate during childbirth. It may increase, but still when you see the number of births taking place in a particular country, still the overall growth rate of the population increases. Impact of population change. A small increase in population is desirable in any growing economy. However, population growth beyond a certain levels is problematic for everyone. The deadly HIV or AIDS epidemics in Africa and some parts of Commonwealth of Independent States and Asia have pushed up death rates and have reduced the life expectancy. This has slowed down the population growth in the recent years. You have to talk all this in a structured format. That is, you have to say initially how it increased, later how it is varying, now what are the factors which are actually contributing, right? This is very, very important. Demographic transition, whenever we say, we are talking from rural agrarian to urban industrial, but again what is happening in the industrial areas, it is costly, environment is not good, education is not good, people are planning to settle in the nearby rural areas. If you go to London and other places, people who go for work, they may go to Britain where they have to work, where they choose certain cities, and whenever they go for cities, they go for job and come back to the rural areas and they settle down, because it's more environmental friendly and at the same time you have certain benefits as well. So here we usually talk about the 3 stages. So whenever the birth rate and death rate is more, usually population keeps on increasing. Example, Bangladesh rainforest, right? The second example or second stage is, there will be high birth rate, but there will be low death rate. Due to this, there will be some sort of population growth, explosion also takes place. And finally, we will see low birth rate and low death rate, that is population is declining. This is what we say demographic transition theory given by Thomas Malthus. What exactly it is? The first stage has high fertility and high mortality because people reproduce more to compensate for the deaths due to epidemics and variable food supply. Earlier you can see there were at least some 20 to 21 children, but at last once they grow at the age of 10 or 15, only some 5 to 6 were alive, others used to die. This is what they try to say. The population growth is slow and most of the people are engaged in agriculture where large families are an asset, right? Fertility remains high in the beginning of the second stage, but it declines with the time. This is accompanied by reduced mortality rate. Improved sanitation health conditions lead to decline in mortality. So, because of this there will be some sort of stabilization reaching out. In the last stage, both fertility and mortality decline considerably. Population is either stable or grows slowly. The population becomes urbanized, literate and has high technical know-how and deliberately controls the family size. All this is important. Population control measures. Different countries have adopted different measures, but over a period of time they are changing them as well. When we talk about China, China actually introduced one child policy, but it is now trying to bring back where it is allowing its people to go for more production. The main reason for this is if you actually reduce the reproduction, then more dependency is increasing and China, which was actually dependent upon the cheap labor, is losing its advantage and India is getting it. So, because of all this, it is trying to reduce the control measures which it had put once. India has not imposed anything forcefully, so we are seeing different things at different states on the basis of their own comfortable levels, right? So, this is all about this particular chapter. High possibility this can be asked in mains. Whatever we have explained with examples, try to write. It is more than enough. The Malthusian theory and this diagram you have to write separately. Very, very important.